Okay, so you guys have a job at the end of my Devar Torah. It is to say, Rabbi, remember, we have to say Chazak, Chazak, V'ni, Chazak, because it is the last parsha in the book of Leviticus. So we're going to say strength, strength, maybe be strengthened, but I want to do it after the Devar Torah. Okay, so I'm going to read to you in English a little bit of this parsha, Parshat Bechukotai, and I'm going to pose a couple of questions, and we're going to talk. Do you have a handheld for them? Okay, we're not there yet, but okay. So, Leviticus chapter 26, verses 1 through 6. If you follow my laws and faithfully observe my commandments, I will grant your rains in their season, so that the earth shall yield its produce, and the trees of the field their fruit. Your threshing shall overtake the vintage, and your vintage shall overtake the sowing. You shall eat your fill of bread, and dwell securely in your land. I will grant peace in the land, and you shall lie down untroubled by anyone. I will give the land respite from vicious beasts, and no sword shall cross your land. That sounds pretty good. Yeah? Okay, it sounds pretty good. So we skip a couple of more promises, and we jump to verses 11 through 13, okay? So, v'natati mishkani b'tochechem, v'lo tig'al nafshi etchem. I will place my tabernacle among you, says God, and my soul will not reject you. It's very poetic language. V'hit halachti b'tochechem, v'ha'iti lachem l'Elohim, v'atem tihiyu li la'am. I will walk among you, and the reference is like I wanted to in the Garden of Eden. I will be your God, and you shall be my people. I am your God, who brought you out from the land of the Egyptians to be their slaves no more, who broke the bars of your yoke and made you walk erect. Does anyone else feel like there's going to be a big butt coming? Okay, yes, the other shoe is going to drop. So this is verses 14 to 17, and then we're going to pause and we're going to talk. But if you do not obey me and do not observe all these commandments, if you reject my laws and spurn my rules, so that you do not observe all my commandments and you break my covenant, I, in turn, will do this to you. I will wreak misery upon you, consumption and fever, which cause the eyes to pine and the body to languish. You shall sow your seed to no purpose, for your enemies shall eat it. I will set my face against you. You shall be routed by your enemies, and your foes shall dominate you. You shall flee, though none pursue. So we're going to pause there. The rest of it is kind of like a rated adult. So we're gonna pause there. You can imagine it just gets worse and worse and worse. And I want to check in with you guys. So what do you think, Cohen? Yes.
Getting ready to.
Yeah. So what do you think? Does it sit easy with you? Is this hard to hear?
It's a threat.
It's a threat. Would someone please hand my husband a microphone?
No, I just think it's a threat. It's like if you don't do this, something bad's gonna happen.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. You want to hand it to Richard?
Well, it's a carrot and a stick, right? First, you get the carrot of basically return to Eden. Do what I want, you'll be back in Eden. Don't do what I want, you'll be in hell. And the two come together. We like the first part better. We like to be motivated rather than threatened.
I like my carrots.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan. Thank you, Richard. Brian?
But it's not, you're created in my image and you have free will, go forth and be the best that you can be. It's follow the rules and don't stray out of the lanes that I've drawn.
So go be the best that you can be, but make sure the best that you can be is within these parameters that I set out for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Helen, had a hand up.
This really bothers me.
What, Ellen? What? Why?
Because we're living.
Here, hold it up so that the people can hear you at
We're
home.
living through this hell. Does that mean that we have been bad and now we're being punished? That's why we had COVID, and that's why Israel was attacked, and on and on and on.
So you're saying, does this, oh, sorry, I thought you were done.
It's a very uncomfortable feeling.
So this puts you in mind of a theology that you don't agree with, which is if you're bad, you're punished, and if you're good, you're rewarded. So then you can look at everyone and you can decide who's been good and who's been bad based on their, how they're doing in life, which is quite offensive to a lot of us. So, okay,
So
Adam,
there's a theology that I like about it,
what's that?
which is the results of your actions are going to be felt now and in this life. It's not deferred results.
Oh, okay.
So your actions have real consequences that you will see immediately.
Okay, so you're saying this doesn't have to do with heaven and hell and
Exactly.
what comes after you die. This has to do with what you do in this life comes back around to you in this life. Is that sort of what you're
That's
saying?
exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, so Cohen, and then I'm gonna toss another log on the fire.
Well, my question is, did they ever follow the rules? It didn't seem like they ever
No,
have.
we have an entire testament to that.
Right, so,
And they are we, so no,
Yes.
we've never actually followed
that's
the
what I
rules.
mean.
Okay, so I want to ask you guys a question. This is going to be easier for those of you who were at services last week. But I want to ask you, do you recall what the laws and commandments we're talking about last week in Parshat Behar? If you need a little spark, it's what Richard gave his very interesting and comprehensive sermon about last week. So Cohen,
The Jubilee.
the Jubilee, okay, the
The
Yovel.
resting of
Every
the
7
land
years.
for
And the
7,
Shemitah.
after 7 years.
Okay, so give us the rundown, Richard, what's the Shemitah, what's the Yovel?
So every 7 years, the land has to be given a Sabbath, a comfortable.
Oh, sorry, thanks.
Every 7 years, God says, I'm assigning this land to you, but it's mine. And you have to respect it as mine. And in order to respect it as mine, every 7 years, you have to give the land a Sabbath, just as you enjoy a Sabbath every 7 days. And after 7 cycles of 7 years, we have the 50th year, in which everything is redeemed, the land is returned to its original owners, the indentured servants are freed, debts are relieved, and everyone is forgiven for what's happened in the last 49 years.
That sounds good, right? That sounds like a good rule.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's rewind, thank you, Richard, let's rewind back to the beginning, what I read to you first from the Torah. If you follow my laws and faithfully observe my commandments, I will grant you rains in their season, and the earth shall yield its produce, and the trees of the field, etc., etc., etc. So, what laws are they talking about? Are they talking about every single law or commandment in the Torah? What if I told you that they were just, God is just referring to the Shemitah and the Yovel? We just went through this whole thing about how we have rules about how the land does not belong to us and how we must respect it and allow it rest and allow the land to be returned. What if all of these threats just had to do with following those particular laws and commandments? Would it change the way you feel about this section at all? Helen?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Cohen, can you give Helen her follow-up microphone? So why? Why would it, there's still really horrible things that God says he's gonna do.
But these are manageable things, and they seem to me that one could understand them and follow them without rearranging your life.
So as long as it's not shotness, then you're okay. So shotness is when you can't, we're forbidden from wearing garments that are both made out of linen and wool or so. So you're saying if it's not shotness, if it's just Shemitah and Yovel, you're okay.
Yeah, it's limited.
Okay,
Do these.
okay, do these smallish things. Okay, anybody else? Does this change the way you think? Go ahead. Want all the telling today.
it's also very intelligent because it's modern agricultural practices.
There you go. It's almost like modern agricultural practices are based on biblical and God-given agricultural practices.
No, they're based on science. We came up with them a long time before they discovered the science.
Okay, I like that definitely 20th century take on how Judaism is very scientifically minded. Thank you, Ron. Okay, so why though are these the two laws that are so important, do you think? Right, because it could be anything, right? Any rule, like there are a lot of 613 commandments. Why these rules? Cohen and then Richard.
Food,
Okay, food, very important.
very important, very
Okay.
hard to get.
Very hard, we have to work for it, absolutely. Okay, Richard?
Well, it's how you treat the land and how you treat each other.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two rules that we're really being given here. And remember that they set those rules first, that this is rules that God gave to Moses on Sinai. And it's the same kind of elevation of the importance of it.
Right.
It's like if you forget nothing else, remember this. If there are any commandments you're gonna follow, remember these commandments. Because these are the ones which speak most fundamentally to how we treat each other and how we treat the land that we're about to be given.
Nice. So wrapping it up, what do you think happens to land if you don't rotate the crops? If you don't let the land lie fallow? Cohen?
The minerals get wasted away, and
It gets
the topsoil is
The
removed.
topsoil's removed,
All
it doesn't
kinds of
really
things.
work.
Yeah, nutrients get depleted.
The nutrients get depleted, I heard a couple other things over here. Barren, right? So, it's almost like, if we don't follow this covenant, then misery will be wreaked upon us, right? And what were all the things that we were threatened with, right? If we fail to love and honor the land I have given you, the land will become a misery to you. You will get sick. Your enemies will beset you. You will reap the rewards of your negligence and entitlement. So, Brian.
Well, I don't know that this follows your so.
Okay, but that's okay.
Well, it raises Eretz Yisrael,
Sure,
the place and the land, to a loftiest position.
that is very true. And not at all where I was going, but thank you. That
Okay.
will be next year's Devar Torah. So I'm gonna wrap it up. Okay, so I suggest that when we read Parshat Bechukotai, that instead of seeing an angry, vengeful God, we envision God as a loving parent explaining the rules that will keep their children safe, explaining the consequences when those critical rules are ignored. If you want to find me after services at the Oneg, I can give you several examples of how Jonathan and I have done just this with our children. It normally has to do with threatening to take away screen time. But, complete desolation, screen time, Shabbat Shalom. Okay, so we're gonna stand up. Thank you for remembering. And we're gonna say together, Chazak, Chazak, Vahid, Chazak. Strength, strength, may we be strengthened. That's all for Leviticus.